What up, everybody? Welcome to the IAG Thursday Thing, this thing that we do every Thursday, and we don't miss it for nothing, even if we have to record it on a Wednesday.
Hell yeah, or even if you forget about it.
Even if I totally forget, we still figure it out. Yeah. Either way, yeah, it's the day before Thanksgiving, so it's what do they call this? Blackout Wednesday?
Yeah, something like that.
This is where everybody goes and gets hammered drunk with their family so they can deal with them the next day.
Correct.
Oh my gosh.
We've been doing this all week since Saturday. There's not been a sober day.
Yeah, well, there you go. See? Yeah, but tomorrow's Thanksgiving, and then and we're gonna get down. I'm just gonna throw this out there, just so everybody is aware, and I do my due diligence. If you are looking to make a purchase with IAG, you 100% want to do it on Friday or Monday, and I'm going to tell you right now, if it's something you're worried about being in stock, you hella want to get a hold of me on Friday. Black Friday sales are going to be nuts this year. Past that, I'm joined by my usual colleague and partner in crime, Warranty. How you doing today, Warranty? Happy you could make it.
I'm doing great. Happy day before Thanksgiving. And just for the people playing along at home, that is a can of balls opening. Not going to get blackout drunk.
Oh, why are we not drinking balls?
We could be drinking balls.
I think we should be drinking
I'll get
balls.
some balls.
All right. And we're also joined by Mr. Executive Producer Jordan, who is on vacation right now in the great state of Florida.
Sure am. Yeah, it's
and
shout outs to
toasty
PJ.
down here.
He's down there enjoying great weather. Oh man, I'm about to.
Oh,
get
yeah,
it.
it's beautiful. We left right before a massive snowstorm hit, so I'm loving it. It's great.
All right,
Perfect.
Let's do this. Here we go. Yeah.
You guys got balls too over there?
Oh, you know it.
Yeah, he's at my house.
Fantastic.
That is something we keep in stock here.
So I also got to thank Randy. Thank Randy for making the thumbnail as usual. That's pretty much the team. So if you saw on the thumbnail, there was an interesting fellow doing interesting things. He had my water balloon slingshot over his head. That was a picture taken a long time ago when we used to go to Snowdrift all the time, but that was my brother. My brother's name is Joey. We've done a lot of Subaru-y stuff together. We even worked in the early days of Six Star Motorsports together when neither of us were making any money, and it was basically a disaster the whole time. Good times, either way. But I'm staying at his house for the week, and I figured, you know what? We were talking about cars he should pick up as his next car and all sorts of stuff, and figured he'd be great to have on here. We could talk about family. We could see what everybody's doing for Thanksgiving, and it should be a pretty chill show. Now, with that stated, that doesn't mean you can't ask questions in the chat. We record this on our Discord, and we have a live chat going. So if you ever want to ask questions, feel free to join in the Discord and leave a question. Or if you're listening to this later on and you still want to ask a question, feel free to email me at Dewey, DEWEY at IAGperformance.com. But other than that, this is it's pretty chill. Listen on Spotify. Make sure you share, like, do what you got to do. That was a great picture.
Photo in the chat of a full fridge of Arnold Palmer and Fago and balls and more Arnold Palmer. And you got some ruby red squirt in there, boy. You are stocked.
It's going off.
I am prepared for when people visit. So,
oh my gosh, are you ever?
Fully stocked.
So either way, this week we got my brother on. My brother Joey, who is how many years younger than me are you?
I don't know, like 30?
Yeah, something like that. Joey's a little bit younger than me. He's not that much younger than me. I think it's 9 or 8.
8 or 9, something like that.
Yeah.
We could do the math if we weren't retarded.
So. Yeah, that's we went to school in Michigan, so that ain't gonna work.
So in the spirit of Thanksgiving, you're thankful for your brother, and he's the special guest today. I think we should open with
thankful for my brother.
We should open with a quick comment that the Fast and Furious movie series is an elaborate plot about family dinners. So that's why
That's all
he's
it
here
is.
today.
It's
That's
all
all
about
it is.
family and nothing else.
That's
Yes.
right.
And we all thought it was
Bam.
about a quarter mile at a time, and then it became about large magnets and tanks.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
But it's really about family.
It's about family
right.
and flips and explosions.
The food scenes are
Explosions,
the
ripping
most
bolts
poignant
out
in
of
those
them, you know.
movies.
Man, that show. I tell you what, I miss the movies for what they were, not what they are, but I could still appreciate the insanity.
Yeah, I like the first early ones, but
Don't we all?
Yeah, the early ones
Yeah.
are better.
We're
It
all
fits
so
like
old.
an actual story narrative better, I think.
yeah, the
I'm
tuna
going to
fish
disagree
scene,
with
or
you. There
tuna
is no
sandwich
story or
scene,
narrative in any of them,
really.
but they are way more entertaining early on because they think that they're good movies.
Yes, there's some
That is
self-awareness
fair.
there.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's what
at
makes
least that's fair.
the first Fast and the Furious movie the best movie. It's at least in my top 5, and it's because it's the greatest comedy of all time and doesn't even realize it.
Yeah, it's right after Point Break because they're the same movie.
I like when my manifold blows out, my floor pan goes out too.
Yeah, it's all great.
Yeah.
So we're coming up to Thanksgiving traditions, stuff like that. Executive producer Jordan is down in Florida. So that's what you guys do during Thanksgiving. You head down to Florida and just or head somewhere. Is that your thing?
Yeah, so when I started dating my current wife now, Samantha, we started going, or their family always went down to Florida for Thanksgiving. Well, originally it started for Halloween, but they couldn't get off school when they were younger, so they switched it to Thanksgiving since they already had that week off. And when I married in, we all continued that tradition. We come down every year. There's a lot of us. There's like right now currently 10 of us here, which is insane. But they have a timeshare, so we come down every year.
Okay, well that's cool. So every year
And we
you
go-
use that timeshare for what it's worth and just have a good time with that.
Yeah. Well, I think because timeshares, in my opinion, and everyone else, even in their family, agrees, they're kind of a ripoff. They're like a scam, but with the amount of people that we have, it actually kind of worth it because they spend the X amount of dollars per year for it. And then since there's so many of us, it's actually cheaper since we're not paying per person. We're just paying for the room. It's not by person, it's by room.
I think certain situations like that, there are certain things that people may think are kind of scammy, but if it works for your exact situation, it may work really well. I think I could see a timeshare working really well for some people. You guys maybe be in that.
Yeah, well, there's 10 people. So like if we were just saying, hey, coming down every year and then getting a little resort, you usually pay, like say $200 per person. There's 10 of us. It'd be expensive as hell. And now with the timeshare, they just pay a flat rate for the 2 rooms that we get, and they're connected. So it's like an actual giant suite. It's like you can kind of think of it as like a penthouse type of setup.
Yeah.
So
Like,
it's actually
I'm
kind
gonna
of cool.
It's slightly controversial, but let's for some people, they utilize it right. Using a firm actually works out really well if you fall under their, preferred their preferred my brain is just turned off. They're really good they're really good interest rates and stuff like that. Like some of them are pretty bad. Like I'm not going to lie. It gets borderline almost criminal, but some of it extremely good and works out for people. And there's some people who use it really intelligently, and maybe so I have a hard time calling things like that just flat out scams when for some people they work out really well. It's just some people use it incorrectly.
Yeah, well, see, something like a firm, like if you can pay it off before the interest, because they have like 12 months zero down APR, right? So like if you can get it paid off before then, it's like as same as cash for the most part.
Yeah. Yep. So.
Yep.
So
we went
Warranty,
from
what are you doing?
So I had a half day today. I had lunch with a friend. It was delicious. Went down to visit the local shop, Roman Auto Body. They were busy.
What's your name?
What?
I mean, you would have said a name if it wasn't a girl.
Oh, I went with Kevin. Kevin is off all week, so
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Then
bummer.
went down to the local Subaru shop, Roman Auto Body, said hi. They were busy, so I'll go by after hours, have a beer, and then start my holiday weekend.
cool. And what does your holiday weekend consist of? Do you just go hang out at the parents' house and hang out with your mom and have some turkey, or what do you guys do?
Yeah, this time my mom's having a lunch. She's cooking, which is pretty rare for her, so that's lovely. So gonna take the girlfriend, and we're gonna ride the train out there and go visit. That'll be probably an all-day thing. And then Friday, she's working. My girlfriend's working, so I'm just gonna hang
You're
out.
bringing a lady friend to meet your mother, and I don't know who this lady friend is yet.
Oh yeah, well we could talk about that. But she's met my mom. They get
Okay.
along great. Get
You're
along like
doing
a house on
stuff.
fire. Yep.
We need to
it's a
give
nice
her
thing.
an alternative name so we can all
Okay,
live vicariously
Sparkles.
through your love life. Sparkles.
Yes.
Okay.
Her name is Sparkles. I think
Okay.
I might have mentioned her a little while back. Codename
I'm-
Sparkles.
Good job, dude. I'm proud of you.
Thanks.
All right. So Joey and I, every year, our family gets together. Usually my mom slaves on feeding 30 people or something.
30 people. It's our mother's side holiday.
Yes.
It's the only holiday we really all gather.
We go really hard on Thanksgiving. It is the important holiday to us.
Correct.
So don't get me wrong. We all pig out and have a good time. But then after we get done, we clean the table off. Everybody pulls out 4 quarters. And it doesn't matter how old you are how young or how old you are. We play the most intense game of Screw Your Neighbor on the planet.
Which is a card game.
Yes.
Which is hysterical because we do the exact same thing, just with significantly less people. Instead of 30, it's only 10.
No, but
Screw your neighbor.
Do you do it with a trophy? We have a revolving trophy that we get engraved every year for the winner. So you get the money and the respect.
That is awesome. We're going to have to bring that up. Everyone here was going to love that too. That is awesome.
We actually have 2 trophies. There's one trophy that the winner can bring home to display. And then the other trophy that stays at our parents' house that has everybody's name listed.
Yep.
And they get it engraved every year. And then the winner from the previous year has to bring back that trophy and fight for it again.
We have we actually had to add a tier to the trophy. It has gotten that crazy.
It is currently 3 tiers.
Yes. It is it's rowdy. And it is no joke.
I'm gonna need a picture of the trophy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I do every year. I think I won a couple years ago.
Yeah,
And I got some pictures up.
I
We'll
think
see.
About 2000. I think we started in about 2000.
Yeah.
Is when this tradition started. So we've been doing it for almost 25 years.
Yeah. It's pretty nuts. And it's cutthroat, man. I'm telling you, it gets intense. There are no friends. Divorces have happened. It's no joke.
Imagine a divorce over a Screw Your
gosh.
Neighbor card.
I'm telling you, some shit has went down. Okay, very, very, very bitter shit. Screw Your Neighbor is very intense.
Huh.
So yeah, that's kind of our tradition. It's a good time. But Joey and I go way back when it comes to doing Subaru stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought a Bug-Eye way back in 2002. How old were you the first time you saw that? Because you weren't very old.
I would be 11 years old when you brought that car home.
That was highly influential.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, so you'd always had, because you joined the Marine Corps and I was in the 4th grade.
Yeah.
So you always came home with a different car.
Yes.
And it was always so exciting to see what you came home with. And I always thought it was the coolest car ever, even though it was a huge piece of shit every time.
I came home with some really dumb boxes.
I mean, you brought a Saturn home and you swore up and down it was the greatest car ever made.
Yep.
And it was a huge piece of shit. But I thought it was the greatest car ever made because you said so.
It had flip-up headlights. Obviously, it's good.
I mean, yeah. And then you came home with a Subaru, but then the next time you came home, you still had that car, which was the first time you had done that since you left.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh shit, this one might actually be here for a while. And it was there for a very long time until, we had some too much fun in a parking lot.
Yeah. Were you there when we killed it?
Absolutely.
That was when we had the most insane snowstorm ever in Chicago.
And we were doing Rockfords in the parking lot.
Yep.
And I would like to say, I still think I won.
You didn't.
Hold on now. You called it a Rockford? What is a Rockford?
A Rockford is when you accelerate as fast as you can backwards. You rip the wheel in one direction or the other, and as you're spinning, you throw the thing and drive so you can take off the other direction. The name was coined by a show called the Rockford Files in the 70s, and that was his signature move. So it is now referred to as a Rockford.
I got it. Okay.
So you got
to
pulling some fast
old Firebird Furious over here, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you got to take off backwards and reverse as fast as you can go. You whip the wheel, you smash it. We were trying to see who could do the best Rockford. And that's what killed the engine. Finally killed the Rooster. 282,000 miles of absolute hellish abuse. 4 transmissions. It ran its fastest quarter mile time with 250,000 miles on the clock. And that was, we almost got the TD04 record with that. Just beating the snot out of that thing. And when it finally died, it died because I was doing superhero donuts. She did burn a little oil, and I just didn't have enough oil in it. So I sloshed all the oil out of the pan, and that was the end of her.
And the best part about it was the fact that we couldn't call a tow truck because it was a state of emergency when we're like, hey, let's go do crazy donuts in parking lots.
You remember how bad it was, Warranty, because you lived in the area that Lakeshore Drive was closed because people's cars were snowed completely over.
Yeah.
So did you even get it out that night or no?
Oh yeah. Gangster hooked him up to his Subaru and we pulled him all the way back.
Was it the other bug eye? Was it the black bug eye?
Yep.
Yeah.
It was
my gosh.
And it had no business pulling it. It was ridiculous.
We had a great time.
I only saw that car at late stage when Gangster had, 600, 700, 800 horsepower, and that car was just
this was when that died. He was probably mid 400s.
It was still way too much horsepower to try to pull another vehicle in the snow and slipping.
Yeah,
sure.
He literally just spun, pulling me the whole way.
The whole time.
A couple miles of him just spinning. Long story short, old EJ205s, if taken care of, tuned correctly, and just used correctly, can put up with a ton of abuse. They're pretty stout ass engines. Old 205s ain't bad. A lot of people are like, oh, these things are junk. They absolutely are not junk. Those are very stout motors. You just got to stay within their limits.
Parameters. Yeah, just like everything.
Yeah. I mean, Gangster ran around on that 20G forever. Shit. I think he put almost 100,000 miles on that thing. That's how he got his nickname.
And he was not nice to that car.
No.
He wasn't nearly as mean to it as you were to yours. But
Crash is asking if it was quote unquote moose dick tuned. Yes, that was a very good portion of its life. It was moose dick tuned.
That would have been moose dick tuning at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So that was our old buddy Andy. Andy Householder was Six Star's in-house tuner for a while. And Gangster actually took that over. Brian Lesenby took that over. So that was the time period that you were working at Six Star with us.
Yep. Yeah, when I was working there, Gangster hadn't quite started taking over.
You were there for that transition.
I was, because Moose Dick was training Ryan and Gangster and me, actually, in tuning. And the other two kept going because I kept falling asleep when we were tuning. So it didn't really work out.
The fucked up thing is, out of all of them, you could have used that money the most.
Absolutely. But I could not stay awake because he put me in the back of the car and I just pass out. I just fell asleep in the back of a car. It didn't matter if you were doing pulls or not. I'm still
He's out.
It's part of Fast and Furious they don't talk about.
I mean, back in the day, we called it the Elgin O'Hare dyno, where that's where we did our tuning. Was Elgin O'Hare wasn't a tollway at that point. So that's what we were doing, is just doing pulls up and down the Elgin O'Hare. That's how we tune cars.
Yeah, nowadays
this is what we had to do. We didn't have a dyno at that point.
Nowadays it's what, IL 390?
And Andy used to love sticking me in the back of the car because I would add a bunch of weight to the back of the car.
And load it up?
I'd load it up. I'd fall asleep. He'd do the tuning kind of like as a safety net. And then he'd be like, all right, get out so they can feel what the car actually feels like without your fat ass back here. So I hop out and then they could go see what actually he did.
So Joey is a sizable man. He's very American.
Very American.
He's a good man.
Good guy, but he's got a little bit to him. So, I had the Rooster. You got into, like, because of the Rooster, you kind of gained an interest in Subarus, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I was really into cars, but you got into the Subaru, and then you got me into the WRC, which would have been like Petter Solberg time. And I was watching a lot of the WRC then and really, really loved it. And then we also really got into Initial D, which is where I kind of got my love for the smaller cars.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's where it all started. And then we played so much Gran Turismo.
So much. Gran Turismo 4 PlayStation 2 is what we played more than anything.
And I mean, when that came out, you took like the week off of work, and I stayed at your apartment, and that's all we did.
People don't understand how like about Gran Turismo I was.
Oh my God, that's all we did. And then even when we weren't together, we were emailing each other times we were getting on tracks. And back when the Gmail chat thing that they had, we'd use that all the time. And I'd be like, dude, I'm a Spec C, because back then you couldn't modify the cars in Gran Turismo.
Not the same way. You could, but you
couldn't. But you couldn't race each other if you modified them.
Oh yeah, I remember.
So we would never modify the cars. We just ran stock cars because the real race was me and you. We didn't give a shit about playing at the computers.
Yes.
We wanted to race each other.
So we were. So before you could race online, we could get a bunch of. You could do like a LAN party with them, and that's what we would do. Is we'd have a LAN party, multiplayer racing Gran Turismo, but you weren't allowed to. Excuse me. You were not allowed to run modified cars. So we had what we referred to as the 276 class, which is basically cars that fit kind of within that Japanese domestic market 276 horsepower bubble. And those cars were all really matched. So it's mostly stuff you saw in like Best Motoring, GTRs, Evos, things like that. I remember when we had Bailey come up that one time, we kept telling him you got to run on street tires, it's the rules. And he kept
running racing tires.
And he's like, it doesn't make a difference. It absolutely does.
Why are you doing it?
Oh man, that was good times. Yeah, Jeremy Bailey, always trying to find an edge still to this day.
But yeah, and we played a lot with Dean Savad in the chat there. We played so much with him. And yeah, I mean, we used to that's just what we did. That was our thing. And that's when we got the wheels. Yeah. And I mean, my first job was basically so I could work to get enough money to buy a Logitech wheel that with the full force feedback and everything.
That was huge for its time. That was insane.
And then I just hooked it up, and that's all I did.
Yep. So you ended up moving out. You got out of high school. I think you were just trying to figure out what the hell to do. So you ended up moving out with me to Illinois.
Yep.
And then you ended up working at Jimmy John's.
I did. And this is my favorite story about moving out to Illinois. It was my second day there, I think. I got there.
I want to throw this out here, though.
Yeah.
Make sure you tell them how we got that job for you. Because the economy was trash.
It was. Because this was 2009. So right after everything exploded.
Yeah.
But so it was, I think, my second day there, and some dude knocks on the door, and no one's home at the apartment, just me. And some dude knocks on the door, and I open it up, and he's dressed like a greaser. He's got a big old beard and aviators, and he's like, "Hey, you're coming with me." And I'm like, "Who the fuck is this?" And I look out, and there's a blue bug eye, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'll go with you, I guess." And he's like, "Yep." And I just hopped in the car, and then me and Ted became really good friends.
Yes.
We got along great. And then Ted drove like a psychopath all the way to wherever we were. I think we went to DS1 back then.
I think it was DS1.
And we drove there, and he was so excited to tell me about his car because I knew nothing. And I'm like, "Dude, why is your transmission so loud? Is this thing going to explode or what?" But he had that fucking 5-speed dog box.
He had that 5-speed dog box, PPG dog box, and he had it hooked with it was a long ratio dog box hooked up to a 207. So we had an 8,200 RPM redline with longer than normal 5-speed gears. So his second to third shift was like 85 miles an hour.
Oh my gosh.
He was just like, oh, we can make this whole drive in third gear. And we did like so much of it. And honestly, it wasn't great.
No, it wasn't good, but it was just funny.
But as someone
it was his party piece,
just came from a town that had more cows than people, and just this random dude shows up, and I'm like, well, he's got a Subaru. I guess I'll trust him. And then we wound up out there. But then, yeah, we went to a meet, and we were at the Algonquin meet. And you're like, hey, go talk to this guy. He works at Jimmy John's. He's a general manager. Go talk to him. And he got me a job with his brother at a different Jimmy John's. And that's how I got the job, was him just being a dude at the meet who was like, you want to be involved.
Subaru community shit. And that was Alberto. I don't know if you've ever met him, Warranty, but that was Alberto, who's just like, I hit him up. I'm like, hey, my brother needs a job. Is there something you can do for him? He's like, not a problem. I'll make it happen. And dude, nobody was hiring. And just snap of the fingers, he had a job. Subaru community taking care of Subaru community.
Damn. That's amazing.
Yep.
What was his last
That's pretty dope.
Yep.
I had a loaner car too. One of the group were like, hey, here, take my Legacy, my NA Legacy I'm using, and you can run this till we get a car. And and then we found the wagon.
I was about to say, this is when we found the most cream puff of cream puff wagons.
Yeah, and we bought it from like a gay couple, and it was his dad's car.
We had to go to St. Louis to get it.
And it was the worst drive ever. It was just so long.
Pretty boring drive.
Boring.
Yeah. 5 hours.
We get down there, and they're just so blown away that we're excited about this car because it's the most boring car on earth. And it was very slow.
Now let's explain what this is. That wagon was a 95 Impreza L wagon.
Yep.
Tan interior, white, 5-speed.
1.8 liter.
1.8 liter. Slower than balls. Now, the history behind this car, too, we got to make sure we get into the history. This thing was being towed behind an RV, flat towed. So it had this really crazy front hitch thing on it.
Yep. It had the crazy front hitch thing. And they modified the wiring so that the brakes would work with the RV.
Yes.
And I always had electrical problems with that car. From the time I got it until they swapped it, there was always something wrong with it. If I turned the car off, I had to turn it back on within 20 minutes, or I had to wait an hour. If you had that 40 minutes
weird
car.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I've had every Subaru expert I've ever met. I've talked to everybody. We talked to Dom, Sammy, every tuner you can think of, everybody in the country. I've asked everybody. He's asked everybody because he was working in the industry at this point and knew all these people too. Dude, we replaced everything in that car, and we could never figure out. We replaced ECU even.
Yeah,
we replaced everything.
And so even with the new ECU, it still did it.
Yes. Now we could pop start
freaking wild.
It could always be pop started. And as a Jimmy John's delivery driver, I push started my car a lot in the Meyer parking lot because all of a sudden that delivery showed up 25 minutes later, and I was screwed. So
he had to park in certain spots so he could roll out. There became
roll out of it.
Oh my god!
Because it was on a hill.
And for background context, I lived like a quarter mile away from that Jimmy John's and never knew these people until far later in life. You're probably talking about 10 years before I met you, Dewey.
You probably saw them push start in this car and be like, look at these idiots.
I saw little Subaru meets there in that Meyer parking lot that they're talking about. And I would hear these cars, Subaru's got that unequal length headers, that rumble. And this was right next to Randall Road, which is a big road. And they would just rip across the horizon. I'd be sitting in my bedroom of my mom's house going, who are these people? I want to meet these people. And then it was a good 10 years later. And the rest, as they say, is history. But so cool.
This white, I mean, we've had some serious adventures in this white 1.8 liter L. I mean, dude, all over the place. You took it to a few different track days. You took it to Snowdrift multiple times.
I drove on the track at Snowdrift on accident.
Oh yeah.
So that was super sketchy. Almost died there.
Wait, hold on, back up a little bit. So why were you so geeked about this car?
Dude, it was a white L, my dude. It's a GC, well, not GF wagon, white.
Right.
Like base model exact. The plan was to swap it. He was just so fucking bored.
It was
okay.
so clean.
Dude, it had 200 like 30,000 miles on it or something like that because it'd been towed behind a RV this whole time, but the car was mint.
And it had this really unique feature where it burned a ridiculous amount of oil. But what happened was it coated the entire underneath of the car with oil. So anytime I went to work on something, it was coated in oil, but underneath there was no rust. Oh, because all the salt.
So you had built-in anti-rust, man. That's awesome. That oil film, that's awesome.
If you worked on it, it was easy as shit to work on.
And dude, why don't more cars do this in the Rust Belt? I feel like this just needs to be a feature for every Rust Belt car.
Make a mint on this, yeah.
In fact, I don't think it even started getting. It didn't really start getting any form of rust or anything because it was getting driven through the winter and beat on. And let's be real, he wasn't washing it.
Correct.
Until after he sealed it up and it stopped burning oil. Then that's when the rust happened.
Yeah, it's actually. Oh look.
Yeah, that's terrible.
So in theory, you made the car worse by fixing the oil leak.
Correct.
That's crazy.
And the car was so terrible when I got it that I was literally taking like people's shit from like it was DS1 at the time.
Yeah.
But Dylan would be like, "Hey, I've got these coilovers that no one will ever use. Do you want these?"
Dude, he gave you so much shit.
And he gave me a hood. And he's like, "You got all this shit." But I would go there, and Dylan was so excited that someone liked an old Subaru like that, and I had no interest in a bug eye. I loved version 3, version 2. I liked the older style.
Yep.
And he's like, "Dude, I'm going to get you this stuff." He installed my coilovers for free, which is why he's a terrible businessman.
Oh, that's why DS1 failed. Yeah.
But it worked out really well for
They were
me.
probably somebody else's coilovers, but that was how Dylan rolled.
And I ran them forever. But I got so much free stuff.
When we're talking about Dylan, just so everybody's aware, this is not Dylan, my crew chief, works at IAG. This guy used to work. He owned a shop called DS1 in the Chicago area, and yeah, he's kind of like an OG Subaru legend for a lot of bad reasons. He's infamous in a lot of different ways. Dude, you know how much that hood? That was an aluminum white version 3 hood. Do you know how much that thing would go for right now? It was mint when he hooked you up with that.
I paid $50.
Oh my gosh.
I bet you that thing, seriously, it was mint. I bet you could get $2,000 for that right now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Cow.
And that was my second one because he ordered 3 of them. He had a flat hunter green one that he originally put on my car.
Yeah.
That I hit a deer. And luckily
I forgot about that.
And luckily the deer did no damage to anything but the hood because it hit that stupid hitch thing that was on the front of the car. That saved the car.
Oh my gosh.
And, yeah, so then it broke the deer's neck and then the deer headbutt the hood, so that was gone. And then he's like, "Well, you can't be driving around like this for $50. I give you this white one I have."
Dylan loved Joey.
Wow.
And so I just threw that on there.
And it looked perfect. It was like perfect color match, white to white. So his car looked sick for a while. Didn't we have some Goldie 5-spokes on that for a minute?
Correct.
Yeah.
So I bought those from a guy who had a flat hunter green. He was actually where the hood came from.
Yeah.
And I bought his wheels. I actually still have his grill in my garage right now.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. So he sold me all kinds of stuff for dirt cheap because Dylan told him to, hook me up because Dylan fucking loved me. So.
And then you ended up putting in some Tiger Stripe seats.
Yeah.
You had a sketchy. Yeah, you had a crazy drive up there.
Yeah, we drove up to Marquette from Chicago.
Michigan.
Marquette, Michigan is way up there.
Upper Peninsula.
There's a picture of the car.
That is a picture of the car like right after I got it.
Yep. That's
So-
where the
Yeah,
five. No, that's definitely further after. That's a little ways after you
Yeah.
got it because that's got the wheels and everything.
It's got the wheels, but yeah, Dean's
Looks
right.
pretty
That is
good.
that's the one. It's still from my Facebook. But yeah, me and Kroll went up there, so we drove his Buick Oldsmobile, whatever it
That
was.
thing was a piece of shit.
Yeah, it was terrible. We drove it up there, sleep deprived, and we got there, and the guy's like, "Hey, I'm not home, but just go in my garage and grab them." And we're like, really? And he's like, yeah, dude, the back door is unlocked. The front's locked, but the back door is unlocked. So we totally felt like we were breaking into this dude's house.
That's a UP
But-
thing if I've ever heard it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, super sketchy.
Hey there, bud. Just go into the old garage and pick up the seats now and then, huh?
Yep. I've had similar experiences in the UP. It's incredible.
But once again, I think I got those Tiger Stripe seats for like $125.
It was dumb, and those would go for like $800-900 now in the condition they were in when you got them.
Yeah, when I got them, they were in really good shape. Well, the driver's side was pretty beat up, but
Was it?
it was.
Okay, then it wouldn't be that expensive. Then you're probably talking like $400 or $500 now. Then
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, but it was there. It was there. There were definitely problems, and I totally wore the shit out of those because I was a delivery driver.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, we went and got those seats. But that car, I did US Air. We did that race up there.
that was fun. I drove Marvin's car there.
Yes, you did.
So Marvin and I co-drove his car, and Joey brought his car. US Air is actually a go-kart track, but it is now become kind of famous within the drifting community for holding final bout.
Oh, I've heard about this.
Yeah, that's it. So it's a super twisty, very hilly go-kart track that every once in a while they let cars run on. And we
It was so much fun.
that was a riot.
And we got to just do laps. We got to just go out there, and it was like 3 laps and then go back in line. But there were only like
Yeah.
8 cars there. And so we just kept going.
Yeah,
and
so they
we
called
brought
it a
late break to
lapping.
Jimmy.
They called it a lapping day.
Yeah.
So basically what it was run the track as if it were an autocross course. So you would start kind of near its main straight. You'd run the track, and just before the end of the track, you'd get off. So you weren't doing full circuits of it. They did that during they did it for a insurance reasons. They did it like that. But
Mhm.
dude, we got so much time to beat the shit out of those cars.
We did. And we had late breaking Jimmy with us.
Yep.
LBJ.
and-
God bless LBJ.
Yep.
And he was so excited. It was right after
Yep.
his stroke.
That was, yeah, he was still in pretty rough shape.
Oh, wow.
And so this was his first time back at the track.
And so what he was doing was riding with us and giving everyone pointers as we
Mhm.
went around because Suave was there.
Oh yeah, fuck, that was Suave was with us too.
Yeah. And
Man, we had such a great time at that.
we did. And yeah, he was riding with us. But it was funny because when we went around, he told you and me, he's like, oh, you guys are pretty good at this. And we both looked at each other like, it's Gran Turismo, dude.
Yep.
It's just Gran Turismo. Because at that time, even you didn't really have any time on the track.
I didn't have a ton of time on the track at all. I had done like a really, really basic kind of shit ass track day way back in the day when I was out in
Yep.
North Carolina. But this was the first time I got to really go ham.
Yep.
And yeah.
And he's like, you guys are great. And then he looked at Suave and he was like, you need some help. But
Poor Suave.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
but yeah, and it was so much fun. And even though my car was slower than balls, it was all about carrying speed for me.
Yep.
And it was so fun to try to like see how far I could carry that. And Hambone was with us.
Oh,
And I remember Hambone being like, dude, it's like your car's on rails because I had the coilovers, I had the rear stiff bar.
didn't we put a 27 mil rear sway bar in that, and you still had a stock front?
Correct.
It was so dumb. That car was it. I got to be real though, it handled really well.
It did. It handled really well. And I'll be honest, the amount of abuse that I gave that car and the roads in Algonquin delivery driving
Yeah.
is ridiculous. There was I used to call it my racetrack.
So
It
this was on just so everybody's aware, this was on a set of version 3 Fortune Autos also.
Yeah.
In fact, you were like the second or third set of Fortunatos we ever ordered. And we ordered them in some wacky ass spring rates. And that setup worked really well.
It worked really, really well on dirt.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
I know it doesn't make any sense.
Just handled
Weird.
well. And that car slid around a lot of dirt roads.
Yep.
But yeah, no, there was this like development going on behind the Algonquin Commons where they hadn't built all the houses yet. And I would, if I had something to deliver on the other side, I would go through there, and it's all these curvy roads, and I'm tire screeching, full fucking redlining that thing, doing this. So I knew that car so well, but I mean, honestly, the amount I kicked the clutch in the winter, I can't believe that I never replaced the clutch because
it didn't make enough power.
It didn't make enough power. Oh my God. I would put my foot down and I would just start stomping my foot to get that fucker sideways.
Dude, I'm telling you, this is when I say hellish abuse, I mean it. And like he couldn't afford to change oil. That thing got oil changes every maybe 15,000 miles.
What are you talking about? The oil leaked out and burned out the bottom. So I just poured a new one in.
That's true. I don't think you changed the filter for probably like 2 years.
Yeah, I changed the filter on that car like twice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, jeez.
So, there's a reason that Subaru's like at one point had a reputation for being crazy reliable, but that was the 1.8 liter and 2.2 liter. Like those things, you couldn't break them.
Well, I mean, a perfect example would be Kroll had a 1.8 liter. My buddy Kroll, who is not a car guy, but he got that 1.8 liter for like $500 from some sketchy dude in Chicago. But he literally, all the oil was out of that car, and he drove it 2 miles home with no oil in it.
Oh my God.
We just put oil in it, and it was still driving when he finally sold it off.
Yes. And I think he made profit on it.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. But that motor 100% had no oil in it. But what Ryan's Green Monster.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite story of any. So, the Green Monster. So that originally, this car is legendary. So DS1 had this little old lady with this car, right? And she came in one time and she's like, "Hey, this car seems like it's running really hot. Something's not right with it. We want you guys to look at it." And the head gaskets had shit. Okay, this thing already had like 200 something thousand miles on it, and like it pulled in like spewing coolant out of the overflow. I mean, it was very bad. So Dylan goes, "Well, how long have you been driving like this?" She's like, "Well, it's been doing this about a month, So she'd been driving that thing with completely trashed head gaskets for a solid month. So Dylan quotes her and she goes, "Well, I don't know. I think that's going to be too much. I might just, get rid of the car." And Dylan's like, "Well, I'll give you like $500 for it." And it was just some old shit L. Okay. So Dylan picks it up for next to nothing, slaps head gaskets in it, and it kind of becomes the loaner car for a while. Like different people drive it. You need something to get home if you're leaving the car at the shop. It turns into everybody's beater. It gets like another 100,000 miles on it at this point. Okay. So then that car gets dropped down to Ryan. Ryan then drops that to his brother. So beats the shit out of it forever and ever and ever. Now I got to remember how I ended up with it. I ended up with a 2.5 liter swapped. Actually, it was the Warthog. It was the original Warthog. Okay. So the original Warthog started as a 2.5 liter and I decided I was going to swap it. Basically, I think the Monster rotted out. Is what finally happened. So the rest of the car rotted out, but they pulled the engine out of it because it ran fine. So it was sitting over in the corner. And I wanted to turbocharge the Warthog originally. So I yanked that 2.5 out. I throw the chintziest shit setup wiring harness I had laying around into it. And I put some old WRX heads on that 2.2 liter bottom end. And I stick, I think it was like an 18G or something on it. I run around at mid 300s on that bottom end for a year, I beat the shit out of that car.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I didn't give a shit. And I did all sorts of, I've got videos of doing donuts and shit. Remember when Harlem Shake was a thing?
Oh, yeah.
Doing Harlem
Yeah.
Shake videos? Like, I'm in the background of a Harlem Shake video, like doing flat spins in that car with that setup in it. I beat the shit out of it. Something went bad with the heads. Like, something went bad with the heads. So the engine outlasted the heads that I put on there. I yanked that engine out, and that's when I ended up doing the proper Warthog build originally. So I yanked that engine out, and that bottom end went into another car, and I think that was Sammy's mom or something. Or Sammy's like mother-in-law drove around on that thing for another few years. I think the engine never died. I think the car died. Like, it's insane how reliable those things can be.
Incredible. So
Yeah,
1.8 and 2.2, those are the non-interference motors. So even if you broke a timing belt and your valves did whatever they wanted, it would never hit the top of the piston. And so you could just put a new timing belt in it and keep driving.
Yeah.
So
what I always wanted to do, and me and what was Jeff's last name? You know what I'm talking about? Like, he's
Jeff
DS1
Smith?
Jeff.
Oh.
Yeah.
Branson.
Yeah.
Jeff Franson.
Yeah, you know Jeff really well. We go to his house all the damn time after Grid Life. Yeah, after Gingerman events.
Yeah, me and Jeff really wanted to put a Toyota Previa supercharger in my car.
Yes.
And we were working on designing a way to hook it up to where the AC would hook up. So we just use the AC belt.
Yeah.
And he ended up leaving DS1 and DS1 exploded before we ever got it done. But I was so on board for that. So that's like the dream if I ever got one again. No, I'm not going to do a good swap. I'm going to do something retarded.
You're going to do something bad.
I'm going to put a Toyota Previa supercharger on a 1.8 liter and see what happens.
Lovely.
Because he always said that it would be better to do the 1.8 because it had the thicker sidewalls.
Yeah, the cylinder walls are crazy thick.
Because it's the same as the 2.2. It's just sidewalls.
Yeah,
that's the only
cylinder walls. It's all only cylinder walls. It literally is that's a 1.8 is just a small bore 2 liter or a 2.2. It's the same thing. So it's just, like it's a tank. Like, good luck breaking it.
But I loved that car. I won. I think I only entered one time. I won the lowest dyno.
Yeah.
At I don't remember what it was, but whose shop that was. It was that Mike guy.
Oh, it was Benchmark when we did Benchmark.
Yes.
Yeah, it was the only time I think I've ever been on the.
It was Benchmark, and I won a gift card for $250, which I think I sold to someone else for like $200 because I was like, "What the fuck am I going to do with $250 with my 72 horsepower dyno?"
Yes, it made some serious horse pony. I tell you what, it'd be a contender for Sunday Cup.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
And at the Subaru Shootout, I raced Alden with the other 1.8 liter, and I destroyed him.
Yes,
because he wasn't willing to launch it,
and you didn't care.
I put my foot down and then just sidestepped the clutch and went with all of it.
Now, I want to throw out there, when you say destroy, I think you ran an 18 flat and he ran a 20.
Correct.
I mean, these were not like big launch for an 18 flat.
Just so you know, I don't know if anybody could have got better than an 18 flat in that car.
Oh, I don't think so either.
Sure.
That car.
You had a relationship with that car that people just are not going to understand.
Yeah. And remember, you used to borrow my wheel tire combo to do all your fucking...
Oh, yeah, I used to yank your wheels and tires off to go do drag racing with it because the 5 spokes were crazy light and you had some good summer tires on it.
I had like weird summer tires.
Yeah.
So you could get like a rotation.
Yeah.
And
they weren't good. They just worked perfect for what I was doing.
They were good if you wanted to run a 13 in your WRX.
Yes. And not like destroy your trans. They were just sticky enough. But I used to steal your wheel tire combo all the time. We'd stick your car on bricks just for the shootout.
Yep. Every year.
Nice.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, man, we had some good times with that car. So then you ended up, you moved back to Michigan.
Because I was so unbelievably poor.
Yes.
That I finally went, I got to do something different. I make $300 a week. It's not enough money to exist.
Damn.
I don't have any prospects of ever not making $300 a week here. And so I decided to bow out, and I took off.
Yeah. Well, you came and then you got into welding.
I did.
You did some pretty cool stuff with what you were welding, because you can't really say too much about it, but I do know you were working on some molds for highly prototype parts at one point. That was pretty cool.
So, some of them, we did a few things that were really cool. And a few of the molds never actually became cars.
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool. One of my favorites was they wanted to try out an all-wheel drive version, and it was for Ford. And it may have been a precursor to the RS now looking back at it, but they wanted to try an all-wheel drive version of it. So they had us like take the mold that was there and fill in all of this stuff to make space, because if I'm filling it in, that means it's going to be a hole in the mold.
Yeah.
And so I did that, but it was like, hey, don't tell anybody.
Yeah. Don't take pictures. This doesn't go online.
Yeah.
Yada, yada, yada. So,
and we also did stuff for another company that actually did explosives and stuff.
yeah.
So yeah, my boss actually had like a security clearance from the federal government, which, if you know him, is bonkers.
I don't know how that would happen,
Because
but okay.
how the fuck because he was allowed in that shop.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he actually would carry this like ID badge that gave him a certain amount of federal government clearance because of the stupid shop. But it was literally bomb molds and other things that we were welding on. But yeah, I was a specialty TIG welder, mostly tool steels. But we did aluminum. I played with titanium a little bit. So yeah.
At that point, you went on, you had a kid, you ended up getting a job doing some tax stuff. That's what you do now.
Right.
Yeah. And you ended up, you own another Subaru, but you kind of like got out of the enthusiast side of things. You had to grow up a little bit for a while.
Yeah. So, the kid was not planned. And, at the time I would say I was still an enthusiast, but I had a Mini.
Yeah.
I had an 06 Mini Cooper S. And it had a modified pulley. It was supercharged. And I did like full big brakes on them.
Yeah.
I changed out all the brake lines to go to stainless steel. I did a rear sway bar on that thing. So I was like,
you were still playing around with that thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when I sold that, I kind of really backed off for a while.
Yeah.
I ended up getting WRXs, but it's just because they were there and I knew that if something broke on it, I could fix it.
Yeah.
So I had like an 02 WRX wagon.
They were just beaters though, for real.
That one was. And then the 04, I actually made money on that deal. I bought that for cheap.
Yeah.
I fixed a few of the issues. It was stage 2.
Yeah.
I
ended up buying your old white car, your old GF.
Right.
I bought that. I drove that as a winter beater for a few years. And then I sold that to Ryan. And then Ryan gutted it and WRX swapped it. And he still uses it as a track slut.
Didn't Crash have it at some point in between?
Maybe. Crash, did you own that for a short period of time or not? I think he's in here.
I thought Crash had
that
it for
white
a while.
wagon. If it's Ryan still has a white wagon from that era.
That's it.
Oh,
that's Joey's old wagon. So you know.
Wow. Yeah, it's still kicking.
Yep.
Yeah,
Seen it
Crash
on
swapped
track.
it for Jake.
Oh, there you go. Oh yeah.
Jake
Jake had it. Jake got it from me. Jake was gonna do stuff. That's why Crash had it. And somehow that whole pile of not swap shit show ended up on Ryan's lap, and Ryan finished it.
But I was really happy to see that went somewhere.
And I've driven it on track at post swap. It's a really good time. It's not fast, but it's fun.
Well, that's all that matters. Because I mean, honestly, my favorite car that you've owned, it's not true. My second favorite car that you've owned was actually your black GC that was swapped.
Yeah.
That we blew up doing one of these videos. And
yeah, we were live casting when we blew it up.
yeah,
that was a great car.
It was.
I missed that car. You know who I sold that to?
Dom?
I sold it to Dom.
Yeah, I thought that was it.
Was that the black one that I drove?
maybe it was a black 4-door GC. It's the one I did some ice racing and stuff with.
Yeah, that was in my era. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. So that black GC, we were coming home on the highway. We were by O'Hare, and I just had no eyes on the exit ramp. And Dewey's like, "You got to take the exit. You got to take the exit. You got to turn now." I'm like, "Oh shit!" And I just chucked this car in, thinking that okay, it's gonna be fine. It wasn't fine because it was a very loose setup car, and it started sliding on the off ramp to go west on 90. And thank God we didn't go into a
about
ditch.
that. Yeah, we
That was
almost
a great
died.
time.
It
It was great. Oh, that car was a
fun
heat.
fact about Warranty. One of the first times I met Warranty, he handed me the keys to his car and said, "You can drive my car on the tail of the dragon."
Oh yeah,
And
I love doing that stuff.
And he's just like, I don't know you, but I trust you. And I'm
I
like,
trust you. That's right.
okay. And I mean, me and my brother are related. I had a lot of fun on the tail of the dragon with not my car. So,
Dude, yeah,
That was good
And
times.
it's a good setup car.
I mean, the
was hoping
second
we'd
time I
start
met
talking about
Warranty, he
that.
let me autocross his BRZ.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
that too.
Second time I ever met him, he's like, "Hey, we're gonna go race this in an autocross event." I'm like, "Okay."
Warranty's let me
So-
blow his car up on track.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd call it letting you. That wasn't really part of
No.
the plan, but it
You
worked
were,
out fine.
Yeah, you were
Oh,
way too trusting.
yep. It was the best of times, the
But-
worst of times.
I could say I've never really been interested in the going really fast part of driving. Whenever, even like when Gangster was doing all the stuff with his car,
Yeah.
I used to make fun of him because I was like, this is dumb. Like what you're doing is you're just going to go to the drag strip. Some dude's going to show up in an 80s Mustang and fucking wipe the floor with you.
Yeah.
And this is silly. And because he'd make me drive his car and he'd be like, remember, you got to do the daily 100 because I had to drive it back and forth to the shop. And I hated doing it, but I would. But I've always been the guy who, when like I fell in love with Subaru when we did the Subaru cruises through Wisconsin, and we would go up there, find curvy roads
Yep.
with 10,
Those were a
15
riot.
people,
Yep.
and we're just driving, having a good time. That's all I ever wanted. I wanted a stage 2 car or whatever.
Something
And-
basic.
And that's why I ended up with Mini, because right now I have a Mini Cooper S.
That's what I was about to say. What do you have right now?
Yep. So I have a Mini Cooper S. It's a 2013. It's pretty much stock.
It's fun, but
It-
it's
it-
stock.
It's fun. It needs some wheel and tires. I'm gonna do that. But I finally got to the part in my life where I could buy a car for me again. And when I went to go look, there aren't a lot of options if you're looking for something under $20,000. That is a
Yeah.
manual.
Hmm.
That's
Yes.
a driver's car.
Yeah.
It's hard to find something in those categories. And so I landed on Mini. And the truth is, when I'm done with my Mini or I want to move on, I don't know what I'm even going to buy because I'm looking through these cars and there isn't like the Car and Driver put out a list of how many sports cars come in manual because so few come in manual.
That's right.
Mhm.
That Car and Driver's like, let's make a list. And it wasn't a long list.
It's short, and it gets real expensive for some of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, like, let's be real. Like, I love you, man. You ain't gonna go spend $80,000 on a Cayman.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, you don't
know,
need that. Nobody needs that.
No. I don't need it and I don't want it. But the truth is, what I'm looking for.
I don't think he'd have fun in an $80,000 Cayman. He'd be too worried about it being $80,000.
Correct.
Exactly.
And look, I love my Mini. I wish it was more fun in the winter because nothing's better than a Subaru in the winter.
Yeah.
A GD GC
Right.
in the winter. That was one thing I could say about the white car. Is my favorite thing to tell everybody was, well, we just got a bunch of snow, so my car went from the slowest car on the road to the fastest.
Yes.
And the only reason it's the fastest is because I don't care if I hit that curb.
Yeah.
But yeah, today I'm looking through the cars and I'm going, okay, I could get a BRZ or Toyota's version of the BRZ. And that's my list.
There's nothing else out there.
There really isn't. And
If you want a sports car thing. So let's talk about some of the other cars that happen. Okay, the WRX has gotten huge.
Yes.
Now, I'm not saying that it isn't a bad car. It's just at this point you can't call that a sports car or And I don't want to take anything away, guys. Like before I get blown up that VBs or, the chassis is really good. It can be solid on track. I'm not trying to take anything away from that, but it's a very large car.
It also holds a ton of value.
Oh, they're crazy expensive.
Like people are still paying all this money for them. And I'm like, you're kind of beating the shit out of these cars.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend $25,000 for a 5-year-old car.
Yep.
So
yeah,
that's where I'm struggling. So my options are I'm either going to go old.
Yes.
And it be something that I work on. But if it's old, it's easy to work on. And I do have a garage where I could go out and do that. But if I don't want something old that I'm going to work on a bunch, I have to get a BRZ. That's the whole list. Because even new minis aren't mini.
They're huge.
They forgot to be mini.
They're massive.
And
they're the size of
SUVs now, right?
Yes.
They're huge.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say controversy. They're SUVs now.
Yeah.
Oh,
As Warranty said.
Yeah, Warranty called it flat out. A mini is an SUV now.
It's really
it's
a
awful
driving experience.
Because even when I went to my 2013, if you would have talked to me when I had my 06,
yeah,
I would have said that the 2013 is too fucking big. And because the 06 is just smaller.
Yeah.
But I fit in it.
Yes.
I've always fit in a mini really well. I'm a fat dude and I'm 6'2", but it's hard to fit in some cars.
I fit in a mini great too. That's one thing I can say about a mini is I actually fit in it really well. Warranty, what are you, 6'7"?
6'7", same torso as you.
Yeah.
Longer
Yeah.
legs and
So
arms.
he's again tall guys. That's one of the nice things about minis is you just fit in them.
Well, people would always make fun of me. They're like, "Wow, you're a big dude. Why are you getting in such a little car?" And I'm like, I got more room in this little car than I do in all these SUVs that everybody's driving or these crossovers.
Yes. That's right.
But yeah, the new minis, they're so big. So you start looking at Volkswagen maybe, but all their cars are starting to look like every other car on the road. Nobody's cars are unique. Everybody's car is turning into a Subaru Crosstrek, and they're all some grayscale. They're either black or white or something in between black and white.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to own a car that is black, white, or anything in between. And I want it to be sporty. I want to look at my car and be like, that's a sports car, or that's unique.
Or that's kind of cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sorry. I love the Crosstrek. Okay. It's really not cool.
It's not cool at all.
No. And it was cool when it first came out because it was kind of like a jacked up hatch Impreza, but now it's just not cool.
Well, even the hatch Impreza stopped being interesting because everything's a hatch now.
Yes.
The hatch Impreza was super unique in the 90s because everybody had a sedan.
Well, and it was even unique when the hatchback STI in 08 happened.
Oh yeah.
That was big controversy because everybody wanted a sedan and whatever. They were actively avoiding buying a hatch STI, but now everything's a hatch.
Everything went that way.
Yeah.
And because even in 08, I remember when WRX came out, we were bitching that it was a Camry. I'm like, hey, look, Toyota Camry came out. What's up, Gene? Nice Camry.
Yeah.
And
Neil, sweet Camry, Neil.
And it sucked because I felt like they were losing that originality. And I feel like it's only carried on since 08. More and more cars are losing their originality. And I thought Mini was kind of one of those last bastions. They're kind of hanging onto that shape and look. And then I look at the new ones and I'm like, why is everybody trying to turn into a GMC Terrain? Why that just a car?
So I think there was a short period of time where everything was getting real round and egg shaped. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then a couple of companies went, nah. And they went really hard against it. GM was one of them. Honda was one of them. And even to a certain degree, even Subaru with the VA, where there was really sharp lines. And these cars started looking real Decepticon. Okay.
Which was awesome.
I personally was not a fan of the Decepticon look. He was a fan of the Decepticon look.
I am.
But now those companies are starting to step back a little bit. I mean, the Corvette is still looking like a Decepticon, but like the Civic Type R went from being like, that thing's going to transform and murder me to it's almost an egg.
It's
That's
almost
an adult
They're
vehicle.
definitely egging.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll tell you what. I like the new Civic Type R's. It looks like an adult vehicle. It's a Civic plus a wing that some
absolutely
people
cannot.
dislike.
You were sold.
Oh,
They're
man.
kind of like a hatch now.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
well,
not
they've always
fun.
been a
What you
hatchback.
just said is what I hate about cars.
It's a liftback. It's a 5-door.
It's
So it's not a
boring!
vertical hatch, but it's a hat. No, it's one of the best cars on sale right now. It's front wheel
Boring!
drive.
And
It
What?
looks so boring.
and you know what
It-
the problem is, Warranty?
Oh my gosh.
Is that is one of the best cars on sale right now.
yeah, you're right.
What you just said is what I'm complaining about. like-
Mm.
No, Jake. Efficient aero does not equal boring. You can make aerodynamics look cool. They did it literally so they could move closer to the center. So people were like, okay, this isn't offensive. Now, while I may not have liked the Decepticon look, it was a bit polarizing, and some people loved it, some people didn't. Whether I like it or not, at least it was different.
So I'm
That's
a
true.
huge fan of the 80s. So I love like an 80s MR2. Like
Oh yeah,
like
wedge shaped.
Yeah.
Everything's really sharp angles.
like if you come to like, hey dude, what's your favorite Subaru? I'm gonna tell you it's the XT6 because
Yes.
it is the most bonkers car ever.
Yeah, you've got good taste.
I love stuff like that, and we're so far from it. So my options are go back in time, or really a BRZ.
Yeah.
The Supra's okay. I'll be honest, the Supra's not bad, but those are it.
You can't say that on this show, so
I
you
mean,
can't talk about that.
I'm talking purely about the visuals.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not talking about anything else. I'm just saying that visually, at least it looks more unique.
At least it looks like a sports car.
Correct.
Yeah.
And because even the what was the Toyota, the Corolla, GR Corolla,
Yeah.
it looks like a cross track.
It kind of looks like a really,
Sure
it
does.
looks like a sporty cross
Yeah.
track.
It's
Yep.
just not sporty enough.
Yeah.
Like it's missing some lines.
It's missing. It's to the GR Corolla's defense. It's not trying to be anything but like a rally homologated hatchbacky thing. To its defense, that's what it's trying to do.
Sure.
And I mean, if you were to look back at, say, like the Imprezas that you and I like, the GCs, the
Yep.
GFs, well, all those were souped up Econo shit boxes.
Absolutely.
And that's what that is a souped up Econo shit box,
Correct.
which I appreciate, but that doesn't mean I
Yes.
like the way it looks.
I just wish it had some more aggressive lines. And even like I think a great comparison for this would be the GR WRX wagons before 2011 when they didn't have those
Before the
wheel wells
flares?
before the flares.
Yeah.
And it's like how awful those cars looked, but then the STI looked really good.
Yeah.
And even though it's a very minor difference,
Yes.
that's what I'm looking for in the Corolla.
Yeah.
Is I feel like they're missing something minor to make the car pop.
If you park a like an XSE or something next to a GR Corolla, you'll see it, but it's not like if you were to look at, I see what you're saying. If you were to look at an 08 STI, you can immediately look at that and tell it's special.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
If you look at a GR Corolla and not know anything about cars,
correct.
the brakes might stick out at you or whatever, but for the most part, it doesn't look that special. I
It's a
think
weird
some of that
car.
is some Decepticon lines too.
Yeah, I think
It kind of covers it up.
it's just not popping.
Yeah.
And
New Civic Type R does not look special either.
No, it doesn't. That's
Okay,
what we're trying to say. I'm happy you're happy with it.
I'm getting on your level. I'm picking it up.
Yeah, nothing special about it.
That ain't gonna get your heart moving to go out on a Sunday and go have a good time with it. I'm
No,
sorry.
it's an adult looking car. That's all.
it is, and that's the problem. I want to walk into a parking lot and go, "There's my car."
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah,
walk to a
okay.
parking lot and go, "Oh, there's a sea of grayish vehicles out here. Which grayish shitbox is mine?" even if the grayish shitbox is fast as fuck, I'm trying to make my 12-year-old inside of me happy, and
You
I
haven't
want
escaped
like,
the Matrix,
look like a
right?
Skittle, and I want it to really pop, and I want cops to see me so I get tickets because you're cool.
Yes, he's got a point. I mean,
Okay.
you can't really. So, of the cars, I've said this a million times. If you're looking for, I think the best car on the market, especially for the money right now, is a new BRZ.
It hands down.
There's nothing anywhere close. But I will go as far as to say that's not just because there isn't other things on the market. It legitimately is good in any time. In any era, that car is good.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But my problem is, in that price range, there is kind of nothing else.
Oh, no, there isn't now. But even if you were to go look older,
yeah,
like I still think if you're the car I think you should own is a 22 plus BRZ.
And that's probably what I'm going to end
you
up
were
getting
to
in a
if
few
you were to
years.
buy new or newish used or whatever, just make sure you get one with the Brembos.
Absolutely.
So if you get like a Hakone edition or you get a TR like Warranty's got, like there's dude.
Yeah.
Have you driven?
Brembos make a massive difference.
Not.
Oh my god! Next, we
Massive
gotta get
difference.
together just so you can. You will. They're so fucking good. It makes you hate the old ones. It's bullshit. His car will run from mine.
Yeah.
And it makes torque everywhere.
Yeah.
And everything is so much better about it. I fucking hate it. The only thing I don't like about it, one, I will say I still am kind of partial to the way the older one looks, and I really like those little humps on the outside. And I like the simplicity of the way the old one, but I really like the old, I hate the stock steering wheel in the new one. I still fucking hate it. And I really like the simplicity of the old one because it reminds me of a 90s car. But what I will say is if I was taking I had to pick between the two to like live with it or take it on any form of a trip or have to ever use the fucking radio, 100% give me the new one.
Yep. I drove the new BRZ to Houston and back, and it was a much better road trip car than my VA STI ever was. So highly
Dude, we fit
recommend.
all three of us in that thing.
Dude, we shoved. Yeah, that's 6'7" Warranty, 6'4" me, and I think
I'm
you're
6'4" too. Yeah, I'm 6'4" as well.
We all shoved ourselves in that stupid car and went to that flat there. It was so stupid. I mean, let's be real, it wasn't comfy, but we got it done.
Yeah. Yeah.
It actually wasn't terrible. I mean, getting in and out of it kind of sucked, but rather than that, it wasn't terribly uncomfortable to sit in the back.
Bone fucking stock. Bone stock was a riot on track. It was great doing autocross with. It's just fun to drive. It's just genuinely bone stock. It gives you that driver's car sensation you're looking for. You feel like you're going fast enough to feel like you're moving. You're not going, man, this is slow. But you're not going so fast that you're going to wad yourself up in a tree or you're guaranteed to get a ticket for at least 3 digits. You know, it's fucking perfect. It is that keyhole you're looking for.
And I think that is exactly what I'm looking for. It does sound exactly what I'm looking for. And I think it's hard to find a driver's car that you don't have to modify to get there anyway.
Yeah.
Like just in general, out of any era.
There's stuff you're going to want to do to it.
Sure.
But it's not like
you need to
when you hop into a bug eye now, and it's been stock bug eyes are hard to find, but you hop into a bug eye now, because of how much better stuff has got. Like the best STI we ever got out of the box, okay, is like across the board was a 15. I will say it just flat out. The steering rack was fast. The seats were good.
I mean, I drove Warranties.
It was great.
It was great. I went on the tail. You could be not good at driving,
and it would be good,
and it would be fine.
Okay, and now it followed pretty closely by an 04, which was really raw, but to the point. But the seats were shit. It rode like a bag of dicks. You know, like there was things that sucked about it. Like there was nothing wrong with Warranty's 15.
Correct.
Okay. when you drive a Bug-Eye and try to compare it to that,
It's
It-
rough.
you were like, holy shit, man, you can tell this is from a different era.
You can, and even when I went and got my Bug-Eye from after having my Mini,
Yeah.
and my Mini was an 06 Mini, but Minis are very sturdy cars.
Yes.
They handle really well stock.
Yes.
It just felt sloppy.
And
And it's because it had stock suspension
It was-
and everything.
It was a stockish car.
You
Yeah.
have to put money into it for it to do what you're going to want to do, for it to be a driver's car. Because if you take a bone stock Bug-Eye and you go to Tail of the Dragon, you're probably not having fun.
No, that's what I'm saying. So you take that and you go to Tail of the Dragon with a bone stock Bug-Eye. Now, if you would have did that in 2002, you would have been a god.
Right.
You do it now,
Right.
you're probably not going to have a good time. You would have more fun in a Camry. Okay, now, so you're going to go,
yeah.
I need to mod this to have a good time. Okay, you do not feel that way in a BRZ in any way. You could take that car bone stock to Tail of the Dragon and you will have a fucking riot. You could take it to a track day right now and have a great
Yes.
time. Like, change the oil. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, and I think that's something that is really sorely missing from all these other companies as well, because they used to kind of be Mini's thing. Mini used to like kind of
Oh, yeah.
promote themselves on
No,
the
if I re-
driver's car.
If I remember right, they did what like Subaru and Toyota are doing now. I think you got like SCCA membership and stuff. They used to do that with Subaru back in the day too, where you'd get like a free track day or something like that, you know. And they were trying to push towards that vibe. Like,
Right.
go take your car and go to the track, have a good time with it, and like that's gone. Man, somebody really trying to get a hold of you? We can hold up a sec. We can just pause.
It's-
Yeah.
yeah. Good. It's Ash.
Okay.
Actually, good pausing point because I'm actually going to have to run.
Get out of here. I don't want to
right.
talk to you anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, rude.
See,
Rude.
Jordan.
We're paused.
And we're
Mark
off to the escape room with 10 people. Wish me luck.
Oh,
All right. So do we gotta? I gotta stop the thing then, right? Can I stop it even though you started it? Jordan?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is it? It's backslash what? Backslash end
It's /stop.
slash stop. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
I think closing the thing out anyways would shut it off
All right.
anyways.
We'll do
So,
slash
but
stop.
yeah, /stop. Yeah.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
it's
gonna-
just
Thanks for
/stop.
everything.
Yep.
Bye, Jordan.
Talk to you guys
See you next
later.
time.
Yep. Later, bud.
So while he's doing that, let's talk about the VASTI that Joey drove on the Tail of the Dragon. So it had the white line anti-lift kit in the front, which added a little more caster, which means when you turn the wheel, it
I
dials
gave
in.
you the basic of basic. What are the things that you don't like? Okay, let's fix that. Suspension modifications.
So caster kit in the front dials in a little more negative camber as you steer the wheel, but doesn't change any camber when you're going straight.
Dynamic.
Then we increased the sway bar in the rear from, I think, 20 to 24 mil. So that made it a little more tail happy. And then the last thing that we did was we took the toe in out of the alignment in the rear. So from the factory, it comes in with like 1 or 2 degrees of negative toe.
No,
in the rear
it's
for-
tenths of the degree.
Oh,
It's
tenths
not
of degree.
much.
Okay.
Yeah.
For stability. And instead we dialed it back to 0. So that way when you lean on the suspension, the way the the multi-link rear operates is it will actually give you a little bit of positive toe when you're in that compression stroke. So again, it allows it to rotate better than stock. So it took it from an understeering car to a neutral car, maybe a little bit loose on the rear end, but it was such a joy to drive. And these were not big mods.
No, Tail of the Dragon was great. But even then, your car bone stock, literally nothing done to it, would have been great at Tail of the Dragon. Would have been absolutely fantastic at Tail of the Dragon.
Yeah, I agree. So new BRZ, all I did on this one is just put some negative camber in the front. So it comes from the factory with 0, and I added negative 1.5 in the front. So
Yeah, it wasn't much.
better handling. No.
I mean, you could do small things to these cars and get a lot out of it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But yeah, if you were to purchase a car new, going back to this conversation, I think a new BRZ or a new GR86 is the answer. You find the one you want in a color that is not between white and black,
Correct.
Yeah.
Something that's fun colored. That's why I think like a Hakone edition would be a riot. Or I got to be real, they don't look good in blue, but they look great in red.
Sure
I
do.
like the dark blue.
Dark
option.
blue looks good.
Yes,
World
it does.
Rally Blue does not work with this car.
I'm not a huge fan of World Rally Blue. I feel like it's overdone.
I think maybe that's probably
It
why
is.
we don't like World Rally Blue as much. Is
Yeah.
because we feel like it is super played on another. It doesn't belong on that car either.
I got a lot of
That-
compliments on my World Rally Blue BRZ from non-car people. So
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah. I don't care about those people. I
Um,
want dudes to come up and go, "That's sweet." I'm not
Oh,
in
yeah.
this for the ladies anymore.
so that happens on my red
Series
car.
Purple,
So many
dude,
car
they're out of
guys.
control. What they think that Series Purple is worth.
So I mean, even
Yeah.
back in the day, I preferred the '90s colors
Yeah,
of the Subaru.
sure.
Mhm.
Because even that
Rally
was,
Blue Plural and then
Yeah.
Blue Ridge Pearl. Yeah,
those
Sedona Red.
the Sedona Red Pearl is
Oh
my
my
favorite
gosh.
color. I'm
You know
a-
how good Sedona Red Pearl would look on a BRZ? Be
it
out
would
of
look
control.
Incredible.
Oh, yes, with some silver wheels.
Because your Sedona Red Pearl GC is my favorite car you owned.
And it like ran twice.
Yeah, but one, me and you worked on that car,
A lot.
and when we finally got it running at
That was the-
Reddings,
Yes.
even though now looking back, we know for sure there was something wrong.
Yes.
We got in that car and we couldn't believe how fast this
We
fucking
were
car was.
ripping. We also found out that we had absolutely no boost control, and that's why we were ripping. But we were ripping in that thing, and it was
Nice.
so.
You let all four tires up and we spun around. We had a great time.
For-
And that car was gorgeous. That color,
It was mint.
there's never a better color for a Subaru, in my opinion. I love Sedona Red Pearl.
So in
That's
a
a great
perfect
color.
world, what you would want is a BRZ TR in Sedona Red Pearl.
Yeah, probably.
That's like the world's most perfect car for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
am a really big fan of the British Racing Green.
Yeah. So that Hakone edition is,
Yeah,
especially
Hakone
with the
editions.
tan interior.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I really liked it.
Oh,
Because that's
yes.
what my current Mini is. It's a British Racing Green with that tan interior.
It looks good.
And
Fantastic.
I love that. So
All right.
So Joey,
Yeah.
what do you think of the new VB WRXs?
I think
Let's start with style. What do you think of the exterior on that car?
it's boring. It's,
Really, it's a divisive setup.
You
It's got
figure.
those big plastic arches. It's got this weird,
Yeah.
ugly
I'm
bumper that
interested to see.
sticks
What do you
out.
think about the arches?
I think I actually consider the arches.
You got to hold this down, Moms.
Okay, I think that the arches are a good thing. So I
Okay.
enjoy that. I think it's an improvement over the previous model, but I don't think that it's an improvement over older GDs and stuff like that. So it's
Yeah, I would agree with that. If you
Yeah.
look at the VA versus the VB next to each other, the VB looks better because it's got more angles, more lines. It looks a little meaner. The VA looked terrible in pictures when I bought my STI. And then I saw it in person. I said, hell yeah, this is a great looking car. And now that I don't own it anymore, I don't like the way they look anymore. They've gotten a little bit older. They look a little bit understyled. I don't see the lines the way I used to. The VB, I hated it when it came out, but it is grown on me quite a bit. So
yeah.
it's a unique
so-
looking car.
That's kind of funny because I feel like that has been the case with Subaru people forever. Because I think even when the Bug Eye came out, Subaru people didn't like the Bug Eye.
I love it.
And then when the Blob Eye came out, we used to call the Blob Eye cross-eyed because we
Yeah, it
thought
was cross-eyed.
it looked stupid.
What did the
Wow.
Hawkeye? What did we call the Hawkeye? when
The
it first-
pig nose.
It was the pig nose.
So
Yeah.
we've always hated the new version of Subaru, and it's always taken time for it to grow on us.
Mhm.
So every time someone's like, "What do you think of the new Subaru?" I'm always like, "I hate it," but I've hated the new Subaru since
Every
I was
time.
10. Like
Yeah.
I've never not hated the new Subaru, but when you ask me a little later, I become more okay with, like, I hated the GRs when they came out.
Yep.
But now I
Subaru
look at them and I'm
corporate.
like, you can make a GR look pretty good.
Yeah, I could really get into a GR hatch. I still don't like the sedans.
No, the sedans are awful.
Okay, and I got to be real. Like, I've never really been on board with a VA.
Okay.
I don't think they're ugly. It's not my thing. Okay.
Yeah,
like,
I also like the Civic Type R, the new one, and it's an understated car. The VA is that way, where you really have to go look for those lines for it to be a nice looking car.
I would take a VB if we're talking WRXs, not talking about performance and like just as a daily or whatever. I would take a VB before a VA. And I really, really like IAG's VB. Like, I got to drive that for a week and kind of fell in love with it. But we painted the side, the flares and the skirts and all that. It just looks good.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, I pulled up the VB to look at it again, and it is kind of like, it kind of looks like a Honda.
Everything's
really.
And
VA is more of a Honda to me, but that's always the case from day one.
I think it's
what your idea of a Honda is and what our idea of a Honda is two different things, though. Weird generations, my dude. To me, it looks like it's just huge, man. It looks like a Toyota to me.
It does. It looks like
it is
Toyota.
huge.
It looks really boring.
Looks like a Honda.
It shares a platform with the Outback.
It doesn't look exciting right out of the gate. It really doesn't.
It looks like a Legacy.
That's what it looks like.
The late Legacies look the same. Identical front ends, yes.
Yeah, and then that's why the Legacy's gone, because why would the Legacy exist if this does?
Exactly. Yeah.
It looks like a Legacy. And so I'm not, like, as much as I love Spec B, Steve Spec B, it was never for me. It was
what's really crazy, if you put Spec B next to a VB now, not only does it look smaller, it looks way sportier.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah, because that was the understated sleeper car.
That was the sleeper car.
Yeah.
And now all the cars look like sleeper cars.
Yes.
And I think that's my problem. Like, there's not.
That car is bulbous in every single way, though. I'm sorry. Just every dimension, it's kind of pudgy. But I tell you what, I really like IAGs.
I do
like
too,
after you lower it, you put the right wheels on it, you do some, it kind of like helps with the dimensions a lot.
A quick comment on hating every generation. Subaru corporate has talked about this in their early promos for when the VB first came out. They said, yeah, we focus group this and we know people are going to hate it. I forget where they talked about it, but yeah, that's known in the land of corporate.
Yeah,
painting the fender flares. Sorry, go ahead, Joey.
Been a thing. The forums always blew up when the new model came out, and everybody mocked it.
The biggest one to me was the pig nose. The forums exploded with the pig nose. And then everybody was like, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. And then somebody got a hold of an STI. They lowered it. They lowered it and they took some hot boy pictures of it and threw it up on Nasiak. And it was like overnight, everybody was like, okay, this thing looks pretty good. And then Ken Block happened. And it immediately became the most popular one.
That's right.
Yep.
I'm surprised you don't like the way the VB looks in terms of excitement. It's got huge arches.
It's exciting.
It looks like the meanest WRX that I can think of. It's got the huge fender flares. It's got the huge.
It doesn't have really huge fender flares though. Yeah, it's not really wide bodied. I got to be real. The most aggressive WRX, I'm just gonna say this, is the Bug Eye.
I mean, let's be honest.
Okay.
If that had a hatch, would you even know it wasn't your car?
No.
Like, it's a fucking Crosstrek.
It is a Crosstrek.
Well, I mean, they're both Impreza base. To its defense, what it looks like to me is a modern Legacy.
It looks like,
I want you to go look at a 2010 Legacy.
Yeah, it looks like a 2010.
Even like
it looks like a 2010 Legacy to me. That's my problem.
Yeah,
and that car was massive when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not exciting. So that's not going to be on your short list, is it?
No.
Okay. Gosh, there's not much out there.
No, the short list is very short. It's a BRZ or a GR86 for him.
Yeah, well, I mean, there isn't anything else in that kind of price range that is a sporty looking car that I can buy and not dump thousands of dollars into to make it good.
Tell you what,
I'll be honest, if I'm going to spend 20 grand and not get that, I'm going to buy an old car, put 10 grand into it, and then have a cool old car. But
yeah,
that's
I mean, one of the things he was cross shopping, because we were talking about this for a while, was a Porsche 944.
Yep.
Oh yeah, cool.
And there's a lot of aftermarket for those. There's a lot of weird enthusiasts.
Some really weird guys rock 944.
There's all kinds of swaps. And you can find those cars for very reasonable, and it'll piss off other Porsche drivers, which I think is a plus. So yeah, it's
nice.
It's definitely something that I throw around, but yeah, but I've also got terrible taste in cars. Everybody's always told me that. I mean, if I won the lottery, I would just have a bunch of 80s shit boxes that I probably bought for $2,000, $3,000, and then spent 15 grand making them better. But they still wouldn't be great. But I'd drive like a Subaru Loyale every day. That would be lifted and stupid. But that is the stuff that I find fun. But I like an original looking car. I don't want my car to blend in. And when cars blend in, I find them boring. And that's why the new WRX, it's not different enough. And if it's going to be the same as everything else I'm seeing, it's just not for me. And that's why I like my Mini. If you see my Mini, you know what it is instantly. Yes. And you know it's not like the other car on the road. And that's why I drive it, because it pops and it's fun to drive. Fun to drive is more important than the way it looks, for sure. But the way it looks is a big deal to me. I want it to pop. I want it to look original. I'm a weird guy. I like weird stuff. So
Josh Aldrich ain't wrong. He's talking about other things you can get for around that price point. I will say 4th gen F body, not an option. C5 Z06, I don't see Joey doing that because he's kind of almost anti-domestic, but I gotta be real, he ain't wrong. A, you'd fit in it. B, it'd be fun to drive, and you can get it in colors that are not boring.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm not saying that wouldn't be a good car, but we're getting kind of old.
It is getting a little old.
Which means I'm going to probably have to work on it.
It's true.
And if I'm going to have to work on it, I'm going to get something real fucking weird.
Yeah.
Like, if I got to put the time in, I'm going to go buy a Subaru XT6 and let's swap the fucker.
Yeah.
And do something dumb.
Yes.
It's not going to be a good car, but I'm going to have fun. And
he's already played the SVX game. It ain't worth it. Well, you didn't, but you dealt with Kroll doing it, so that might as well have been you.
The
special kind of person.
The problem with the SVX is it's
terrible.
It is.
It's just bad.
It's really heavy, and for some reason it holds value. But the XT6 is so weird that
you can find it, when you do find them, they're really not that expensive unless you run into one that's got like some untouched Survivor that's got like 30,000 miles on it. So,
yeah, it's hard to get parts, but I'm not going to use any of the parts. Like, everything's going to get swapped.
Yeah, it's all getting chucked. Like, it just needs to be a clean body. Real talk, like, due to the spiritual nature of my trip to Tail of the Dragon recently, I would love to see you in a BRZ. And I would love Warranty to come do BRZ stuff with us. We all just go do BRZ things.
I'll be honest, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's just my future. You know, my acquaintance, car wash, had a BRZ, and he didn't know how to drive stick, so I had to drive it back from the dealership when he first bought it. And I had so much fun beating the shit out of someone else's car with that BRZ. I've had fun driving your BRZ.
Yeah.
And that's when they're slower than fuck. And I always said, this thing needs 30 horsepower and it'd be perfect. And
that's what it is.
That's what
it's 30 horsepower and torque right where you want it.
That's right.
And I think that would be incredible. So I think that's probably the route I'm going to end up going.
22 plus BRZ.
Yeah. And whether or not I'm going to do a BRZ or Toyota will probably be purely dependent, because I probably won't be for a couple of years. It'll probably be dependent on what I can find at the time. I know that the BRZ has some aluminum knuckles or whatever.
Yeah. I don't think that's enough to really change your situation. The
brakes are more important to me.
If you can get it with a Brembo, so if you get one that's non-Brembo but cheap enough,
Then I can put the Brembos on.
We could get an AP racing kit. We could get an
Yeah.
EDC kit. You can get all sorts of shit for it. So whatever.
The Brembo BRZs go back to the iron knuckles.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, I do not finance. I do not believe in debt there, Josh. So that will not be a problem for me either way.
Yeah.
So I will
Good
be
for
paying
you.
cash for it. So that's why it'll probably take a couple years.
But it's also why you're going to get a mad deal because you're going to show up with cash. Some dude's got it up for 25 and you're going to go, I got it in my pocket. Let's go.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um,
Yep, I agree. Now, the Brembos, I'm with Dewey. I would personally go for a non-Brembo car because you should be able to find them for cheaper.
what do you mean I
especially
can't
light-
legally pay cash for a car?
What?
What?
I
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about, Josh?
this
Josh
is America.
Josh
maybe
is
you're
in
from,
the chat talking about you can't
What?
legally pay cash. I
Yeah,
have
did
bad
it
news,
this
big
year.
homie. You absolutely can.
I mean, maybe he's from Canada. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe that's some weird Pennsylvania rule. You can't bring
Can I-
that much paper
whatever.
money.
Get out of
No, but
here.
they-
Okay.
Sure.
Write him a check.
You
Give me a
right? Yeah,
break.
you can go from bank account to bank. Will you
Get out of here.
Jeez.
You're right. They're
Whose
not
mans
going
is
to be
this?
happy if I bring in nickels.
Yeah,
But
Come get your mans.
I'm pretty sure a cashier's check will get the job done.
Stephanie, come get your man. Okay,
God bless.
come get your man's. He's out here. He's out here talking nonsense again.
My point is, I
I'm-
just won't finance. So
Yeah.
Toyota's
Non-Brembo
financing
car.
versus Subarus doesn't affect me.
Brembos are basically a 5K option. So the TS will get you better shocks, but I don't think
He's gonna
shocks
chuck
and
those.
Brembos are worth 5K. I really don't. And this is coming from
No.
an owner.
Yeah.
So
I'm not. Your car's good, but I got a feeling him paying $5K for shocks and Brembos, when in reality we're probably going to put a well thought out set of fortunes and some other brakes
Right.
on it,
right.
and he'd probably have enough money left over to buy some wheels.
I'm probably buying a used car. Humans take cash, I promise you. I have bought things for cash.
I get what you're saying, Josh. You can't walk up with $20,000 in frickin' ones and throw it at them. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you walk into a dealership with 20,000 actual cash dollars in your pocket, stick it in their face,
Yeah.
they're going to take it.
I mean,
you sign a paper.
I bought my wife's car from a dealer with a personal check for $13,000.
But he's saying you can't literally actual
Saying that
cash. Like
Doesn't count.
no.
No,
But
we're having a
everybody's going to
pedantic
this.
army.
We're
I'm
Josh,
just not financing.
stop talking things.
Just not financing.
This chat has gotten weird. All right.
we got to be this way. So,
We
Another
got any
comment on the
closing
BRZ?
thoughts here?
closing thoughts. Dewey,
Joey
are you
needs to
going
get a BRZ.
Are you going to
agree.
be in Michigan in December? I've got some PTO coming up on the last 2 weeks of December. Are you up there? I will come out there and I will bring the BRZ.
I mean, I will be here. I live here.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we need to get Joey down to Tail of the Dragon is really what we need to do. We just need to have this spiritual thing. We'll trade a bunch of cars around. He'll come down in his Mini, which will be still a good time at Tail of the Dragon.
I'm
Okay.
gonna do some wheels and tires. I could do that whenever, and then be ready to rock.
Yeah, we can just flop cars around. You can drive mine, he can drive yours, I'll drive his, whatever. We'd have just a really good time. But he needs to go out there and rip on some pretty serious roads and really, I want him to get spiritual. Jeff,
What's
can
the
you come? Absolutely. I still want to do a IAG Thursday thing, Tail of the Dragon
That'd be great.
meet.
Yeah.
And I
Great
think it would
idea.
be super cool to actually do a live podcast at Tail of the Dragon.
Yeah, why not?
Yep.
That would be so much fun.
We might not be able to stream it, but we could have mics recording during the
Oh
day.
yeah, we just record there.
Yeah.
We would go down to the resort near there. We wouldn't be able to stream it, but I'd bring enough mics to where we could have a really good time.
That's a great idea. I'll bring
Yep.
2 mics. I'll have a great time.
That'd be a riot.
Yep. BRZ, last comment from me. It's the size of a GC, Joey. So it's
really
not
is.
any smaller and it's not any larger. It just happens to be rear wheel drive.
Yeah, exactly.
Sweet. I guest on tour. Yeah, that's really kind of the idea. Come to Australia. Yo, I'm down.
Dude, we gotta go to World Time Attack.
You ain't kidding. I have a feeling I'm going to be talking to some people at PRI about that. So,
That's a great idea.
We did have a comment.
Okay,
earlier.
so BRZ swapped GF. That'd be tough for you, wouldn't it?
I think it would end up being a BRZ just because I don't want to fuck with it. And
you would fuck with it.
If it's a swapped GF, I have to fuck with it.
You're not.
I'm going to do stuff. I'm going to change shit around. And at this point in my life, what I'm looking for is a car I don't have to fuck with.
I would like to see you in a car that I know you're going to be totally okay with starting up and driving down to my place, or hey, let's meet at a track day, or let's come to Tail the Dragon for the weekend. Let's have a good time. I want you to be able to come do things. We can work on getting a truck and a trailer and all that noise later.
Well, I mean, my next vehicle will probably be something that can tow anyway.
Yeah.
And I have an
Great
uncle
idea.
who likes to buy trailers for no reason, so I can have a car trailer whenever I want.
He is kind of
Nice.
insane like that.
That's perfect.
So, yeah, I mean, I'd be able to pull my car wherever, but that's what I want. I want something I could just grab and run and not worry about.
Mhm.
And the problem with that swapped GF is what the fuck happens when I pop that motor, because who knows how old that motor is, or, you know, it's going to have like a 205 in it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And it's just some dude's, you know, WRX he beat the shit out of before he hit
It's somebody's problem. Like, I'm not saying like if the right one came up. Now you also have those like basically bone stock. This is something we didn't have an option for back in the day. Okay. Bone stock Japanese domestic market WRXs are coming over here in droves that are very clean.
Correct.
They are clean, and we're talking 15 grand. You can find a really well sorted, clean, runs good. But the reality of it is,
It's an EJ20G.
it's older and fuck.
It's going to have problems.
You're gonna run into some small issues.
And stupid issues, like even like injectors and shit for an EJ20G. They're different.
Yeah, so that's one thing. It's real nice working at IAG now. I deal with a lot of international customers, and I've had to do a lot of research, and the aftermarket has solved a lot of that problem.
Okay.
Thankfully. Yeah, like we
Because
would,
back when I was originally looking at swapping my GF,
horrible.
you know, I was like, I could do an EJ20G for cheap, but if
No,
anything breaks,
you're
there's
on
nothing,
weird
I'm
side feeds,
screwed.
all sorts of shit. Now we have the ability to top feed convert those and all sorts of shit. So like a lot of stuff has happened.
Yeah, and the EJ20G was a good motor, but
It had its own issues.
it had its own issues.
All the stuff externally was a pain in the ass. Now there's
Mhm.
plug and play link ECUs, so you could just throw out all that shit that doesn't work. You could turn it into speed density, so that stupid flappy mass airflow sensor, you could just throw it in the garbage. You know, there's
Right.
lots. Yeah, you can get rid of a lot of that shit that would fail back in the day and we had no
Mhm.
way of dealing with. Now you just get rid of it. So
And there's also this one thing that would really dissuade me from it. And it's that I live in Michigan and I wouldn't want the car to go in the winter, but I'd really want to drive it in the snow.
and then you would ruin it.
And then I'd ruin it.
But the BRZ
But the
is
BRZ is
gonna,
going to just sit in the garage because it's not going to be fun.
yeah.
But the WRX would be so much fun.
There's no way you could
That
stop
could
yourself.
I not do? I don't know if I could
Yeah.
not do it.
That's a really good thought.
And it's just moronic me going, well, one time won't hurt anything.
Yeah.
And then that turns into I drove it for a month because it was too much fucking fun being a superhero on the road.
Yes.
And it's a problem.
Yeah.
First world
Serpent
problem.
Wolf, I have that problem. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think we did the thing.
We do have a couple questions in the chat.
All
we
right,
go to
let's hear 'em.
those? So, first one comes from Jake. So, he says, since it's a chill sesh and I'm planning the winter workflow, I'd love to hear your opinions on this. I've got a 13 FRS, picked it up just as it's starting to rod knock, like only around 2,400 RPMs. I
Hey,
got
it's
two
dead.
options. Number one, pull the motor, reseal the EZ36 I have on the stand, throw it in, and then use a link ECU to run it. Or number two,
That seems
pull-
easy. It's not. I actually looked into doing that, just so we're all aware. I looked into doing that. That was something I was very, very interested in doing. Actually, I had some very long conversations with another engine company before I worked at IAG about building a really badass NA 6-cylinder. And I can tell you, the juice is not worth the squeeze. Okay, what's the rest?
Number 2 is pull the motor, fix the rod knock, and then track the crap out of it with the goal of being a Club TR car. Either option feels more reliable than the Impreza for seat time. What do you think?
Okay, I'm going to give you option C. I really like, and this is as it sits right now, and there might be better ways to do this, but I really like what Andy did at ASM with his FRS he picked up stupid cheap. I'm pretty sure he got that rod knocked also. What he did is stick an FA24 bottom end in it and machine the heads a little bit. Now, it's not perfect. It's not going to make quite as much power as an FA24, but if you're already going in there, you could pick up an FA24 bottom end stock, like from Subaru, like $2,700, something like that. You know, they're not that expensive. And then you got to get the pan and the pickup. But everything else kind of bolts up to it, other than the slight machining you have to do to the head. You got to make kind of like a relief. The same, it's not quite as fancy as, and I think there are better ways to do it. We just haven't done the research. But what people have done is basically just cut a relief around the to open up the bore a little bit. And they have ran the shit out of those things and had a really good time with them. Andy's is running really well. He's done a ton of track days with it. I think that's a really valid option. Now, in the not too distant future, what I'd like to see is IAG have the option to send in heads, just like we do with the EJ20 to knock them out to the EJ25 combustion chambers. I'd really like to do that same thing with the FA24s on FA20 heads. I think we're going to have an option to do that. That, or we're going to have some weird piston that we can do it with. But yeah, I think that's the play. Crash is saying, I think you need the front cover too. And I think he's right. I think Crash is right. I think you would need the front cover too, because it is slightly different. But I know they're running it with FA20 heads. There's a write-up on what you have to do with this that some dude posted the other day, and it's really good. I'm going to see if I can maybe post that up at some point. But yeah, that would probably be the route I would take. Or it's only about $6,000, $7,000 to find a running FA24 out of a crash car. I'd get the full damn FA24 and then grab a Link ECU. Yeah. And it basically solves the issues. Then you get FA24 power. And you basically have a 22 BRZ in the older body, which is the answer anyway.
Those front timing covers for the FA24, Subaru increased the price quite a bit, so they're well over $1,000 now. So FYI, that might be a problem.
Club TR legal, though, is the key. So then just put in a full FA24. Then it's legal. Done.
So got one more question for you.
Sure.
And this comes from Sivad, who I think left the chat.
That's Dean. He's already left, but we'll answer his question.
Dewey, since Joey is on, I feel the need to ask if you recall a previous show that you used to host called Snap Oversteer.
Yes.
Had a superior counterpart hosted by Joey called Predictable Understeer. How has that competition motivated you to continue pushing the envelope on promoting products and Subaru propaganda?
Oh man, yeah. So that was so stupid. Me and my buddy Will used to have this weekly live cast we called Snap Understeer. Honestly, I the name was great and the concept was good, and I miss doing those. That was a lot of fun. I miss that format. It just worked. I think if we would have stuck with that, I think it would have done really well in this day and age.
And yeah, what ended up happening was me and Dean were working at the welding shop, and every Thursday or Wednesday or whenever those came out, we would listen to that show, and then after work we would sit down and we would record our rebuttal to that show, but in the most obscure way. Like, they would be talking about emissions and then in how cars dealt with those, and we would say the real issue with emissions is cow farts, and that's like where the story would go. And so we were producing that on every week for like 3 or 4, I think we did like 6 or 7 of them. But yeah, it was just a mock show that we were doing.
So Snap Understeer. Did you call it Predictable Oversteer?
Yes.
Nice. Okay.
That was great. So great.
And yeah, I think that I said my name was like Huey, and then Bean was like Lil or something.
It was so bad. It was so good.
It was funny, and
That's great.
It was funny because we started getting people watching who didn't watch your actual show.
Yeah,
And they're just like, "What is happening?" And we're like, "We don't know. This is."
Oh, the internet. Oh, Jake is saying Mike McGinnis had me want an EZ36 based on. I mean, and I think that's legal in GLTC. It's not a terrible idea if you want to go down that road. It's not as easy as it seems, and an FA24 would drop right in, and you'd have all the aftermarket in the world. Okay. Josh just asked something to you, Joey.
Yeah, I've seen, and I do
to make
love
sure
a
you.
Volvo.
Well, hold on. You gotta. People can't see the chat.
Okay. Yeah. So he's saying, how about a Volvo V60 Polestar? And I do love a Volvo.
That's actually a sick car.
Yeah.
Are they still making those with the manual?
No.
Oh, well, what are we talking about then? Shut up, Josh.
I think he's talking about one he actually has.
They were cool.
But yeah, they are. And I really liked a lot of those Volvos. The EZ36 and the EZ30R have been something that people have been trying to make a thing for so long.
It isn't good. There's no aftermarket for it.
It's never been a viable option, but people have been talking about it since the 90s.
I know.
Oh yeah.
And it isn't a thing. I love you guys. So Serapin Wolf is EZ36, you really leave it stock or de-stroke it. But if you de-stroke it, get ready to, that's what we were looking at. We're going to take an EZ36. We're going to use a 3-liter crank, de-stroke it to like a 3.3. So we can put a longer rod in it. We were going to make it really high compression. We were going to make it NA. That was the idea that we were going to stick in the BRZ way back in the day. And I was talking to a different company about this that messes around with those engines a little more. We had a whole plan for doing this, but the swap was going to be awful. And there was no way for us to ever make this like emissions legal. The reason this works, you can do kind of like cool builds like that in like an older Porsche or something like that is because they're pre-emissions. So I wanted the concept. What I looked into was doing like Six Star was going to do kind of a Singer Porsche style thing. You send your BRZ into us, and we would convert it to this for a very set price. As long as you met the inspection, we would build this for you.
But you wouldn't pass the emissions.
We couldn't get it through emissions anywhere. So the second we started doing that, it became like a manufacturer style thing. Like we got exposed to all sorts of crazy shit. I'm not saying you couldn't do it and it wouldn't be cool. I'm saying there's a lot more to it than you think there is.
You could do a standalone ECU though.
You could, but even weird shit like the starter's on the wrong side. So we were going to have to produce something to move that. Okay. And like there was some stuff that was going to have to be produced, and to bring the cost down to something that made sense to make it nice and not janky. You know, if it's just your cars, whatever, and it's going to be janky, that's fine. But we can't let that leave a shop looking janky. So it's going to be expensive to do it the right way.
Yeah.
And then so doing 1 to 3 of them, that isn't going to be price viable. We have to do like a minimum of 20.
Right. Yeah, and that makes sense because I mean, and I get why people want it because Sammy's EZ30 swapped RS was a lovely sounding vehicle.
It wasn't fast though.
And it wasn't fast, but it was
okay.
It was fine.
Stage 2 bug eye.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
And I think that if someone was looking to do that, if they were like, look, I'm going to put this in my...
It goes into an old Impreza just fine.
Old Impreza.
Which, just so you know, that's what Jake Martin has.
Okay, yeah. I mean, if you're going to put that into an old Impreza and you're not going to touch it, you're going to have a lot of fun, I think. I think it'd be a fun car. It was very responsive. Sammy's was fun to drive.
Dude, Jake's was insane to drive on pit race because the car... I've never driven a Subaru that tried to oversteer that hard, an all-wheel drive Subaru that was oversteering that hard.
Wow, coming from you.
It was a drift missile. It was so much fun to drive.
Wow.
Not a beginner car at all, and he is a beginner. So it was not the right car for him. Holy fuck, was that fun to drive, though. And you could control it so well because it was very linear power.
Well, yeah,
throttle response was instant. You know, oh my God, it was fun. But I could see why you would want that in that concept in a BRZ,
Yeah.
but I got to be real. It made more sense with the FA20.
Mhm.
It doesn't make sense the FA24 existing anymore.
Well,
that
no,
engine is so fucking good.
If that motor's good and producing a good amount of power, I mean, honestly, an EZ30 is probably producing similar amount of power.
It does. Actually, slightly less.
So why would you ever even consider it other than the fact that it sounds absolutely glorious? But other than that, that's not a reason to do a swap.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if he's got a shit, I'm telling you, just stop fucking around. Just get the frickin' FA24. Just get the FA24 and stop screwing with it. And it's gotten so easy now that there's a plug and play link. Just do that and be done.
Mm.
All right. Anything else, Warranty? We get them all?
I'm checking through the chat. I don't see any more major questions. Let me get to the bottom of them. I'll tell you for sure.
Fresh, I think Sammy does still have that car, by the way.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if he got rid of it.
Yeah, I don't, you can't really, that's just a part of him.
Yeah.
Like that car would have to burn to the ground for him to get rid of.
And honestly, if he did, I think I would be personally insulted because I told him many times, you better fucking call me if you ever want to get rid of that car.
Yeah.
Because I know it's a shit box, but it sounds so good.
It is a good Sunday car.
It would be.
Yeah.
And, but
No other questions that I can see, gentlemen.
All right. We had a good one, guys. I want everybody to have a safe and fun Thanksgiving. Don't do anything too god awful. Enjoy time with the family. And then you need to come to me on Friday morning, ready to go. I mean, we got some doorbuster crazy deals going on too, where like we're throwing in free engine mounts and shit with like the first 5 engines. Like it's nuts. So, if you're listening to this live, yeah, it's awesome. If not, and you missed out on this, I'm sorry. Black Friday's no joke. Okay. But it's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun. And we will see you cats next time.
bye.
Bye.